2023, a year that feels like a distant memory even though it was only like 5 days ago at the time of recording this video. 2023 was an odd year for cinema. We got a lot of bad movies but also historical events like Barbenheimer. There were more ups than downs. It was really bad. Flop after flop after flop, but sometimes banger after banger. The DCU even released their last movie with Aquaman the Lost Kingdom, and as you guessed it didn't do so well. A total number of 8 superhero movies dropped last year, 4 from the DCU, 3 from the MCU and 1 by Sony. But today I wanted us to take a look back at all the superhero movies we got in 2023 and rank them from worst to best, and I'm not gonna lie, there's a whole lot of worse here. But enough beating around the bush here, here's my ranking of every superhero movie we got in 2023. At dead last is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I don't even know why this movie is called Ant-Man and the Wasp, because the Wasp is barely in this movie. She's not even a side character, she's more of a background character at most. Now where to start with this abomination of a movie. First of all, making Kang the main villain of this movie made as little sense as a John Wick 5 movie. Just don't do it. First of all, Kang was hyped up to be the Thanos of the multiverse saga. He was even said to be stronger than Thanos, and his first appearance is in an Ant-Man movie. It's like introducing Thanos in a Black Widow movie. It doesn't make any sense. The biggest issue this movie had is that it was in a rush. Like 5 to 10 minutes into the movie, everybody gets sucked into the quantum realm. Like they didn't even give the story any time to breathe. Everything was just rushed. And on how Scott's daughter knows quantum mechanics is beyond me. Lately, the MCU has been obsessed with these Mary Sue characters, you know, people who are just good at everything. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Anyway guys, remember the days where Marvel used to use practical effects and everything was real back then? Well, not anymore, because everything has to be CGI now, and genuinely I hate it. And don't even get me started on MODOK. There is no way someone saw this and gave it a thumbs up. There is nothing I can say about him that hasn't already been said. MODOK was an abomination. The only highlight in this movie was Jonathan Majors as Kang, and it just sucks to know that we'll never see him in this role again. But apart from that, this movie was actually hot dog water. At 7 is Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Damn you, Dwayne Johnson! Is a phrase a lot of DC fans said when this movie came out. There are rumors that not only Black Adam but the Justice Society of America was supposed to show up in this movie, but The Rock felt like it would steal Black Adam's thunder, no pun intended. As we all remember, Black Adam was supposed to be the main villain in the first Shazam movie, but The Rock had waited this long, so he wanted his own standalone film, which DC said yes to. But by saying yes, they unknowingly turned on a switch in The Rock's head, cause according to him, he was the one calling the shots now. Thus, he made decisions like making Black Adam and Henry Cavill's Superman the main faces of the DCEU. So back to Shazam 2, this movie was just destined for failure, thus we got a hot mess like this. And the sad part is, you could tell that Zachary Levi actually enjoyed playing this character, but The Rock just gave him the people's elbow and that was it. So I can't criticize this movie that much because it was just bound to fail. And I know it's not fair to blame The Rock for the movie flopping, but let's be honest, it's kind of his fault. At number 6 is The Marvels. I'm gonna say it. Everybody knew that this movie was actually going to fail. It didn't take a PhD from Harvard to know that putting one of the most disliked Marvel characters alongside 2 other characters that people didn't care about, the movie was bound to flop, and it did. I know when they made this movie they had good intentions, but fans don't care about good intentions, they care about good stories. The dynamic between the 3 leads was pretty okay, but that's it. The villain was beyond bland and forgettable. Her motives were as clear as 10-year-old me trying to confess my love to a girl I knew. It wasn't good. But just look at how they massacred my boy. I feel like in 2023, Marvel only had one goal in mind, and that was to ruin Nick Fury's character, which they successfully did. You thought what they did to him in Secret Invasion was bad? Wait till you see this movie.
Monica, you gotta fly.
No.
Black girl magic.
Use Black Girl magic. An actual line in this movie. You can't tell me that this is the same Nick Fury who was fighting evil Germans, jumping out of planes, and being the #1 spy in the world. I think not. And the post-credit scene, oh god. They literally introduced the Fox X-Men in this movie, but it didn't matter because you could tell that they were really desperate. Like, you could really smell Kevin Feige's blood, sweat and tears in this scene. It was really sad. And I saw this meme saying that Marvel has been really trying to force her character down our throats and we don't want to. She was in the Captain Marvel movie, a member of the Illuminati, and an X-Men in this universe, and nobody said a single word. That just shows that nobody actually cares about her. The comic book fans might know her story, but the fans don't, and judging from what I've seen, they don't want to. This movie was just bad. At number 5 is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, the movie that finally killed off the DCEU. I made a full video talking about the downfall of the DCU. You can go check it out after watching this video, but yeah, where to start with this movie? First of all, it was Like, there's nothing here. This was the final movie in the DCEU and it was just a movie. It isn't as good as the first one, but at least it's a fun watch, and the sad part is you could tell that Jason Momoa's heart was just not in it. A lot of people were happy that Amber Heard was barely in this movie, but I didn't care much. The plot was pretty simple. Stop the bad guy from releasing the evil army frozen in ice. Just like the first film, this movie was promoting a lot of environmentalism, but okay. One thing I really appreciated about this movie is that they didn't try to set up everything and the plot was just simple and easy to follow. I really liked the dynamic between Orm and Arthur. It was a really nice touch. But if this is really the last movie in the DCEU, what a lackluster way to go out. Yeah, I know I'm not saying anything much about this movie, but there's nothing much to say. This movie's just plain vanilla. But other than that, I really hope James Gunn pulls through with his version of the DCU, and I would really love to see Jason Momoa as Lobo down the line. At number 4 is Blue Beetle. Here's the thing, Blue Beetle is actually set in James Gunn's new DC universe, but he says Superman Legacy will be the first movie in that universe. But if Blue Beetle is already a part of that universe, that would make the Blue Beetle movie the first movie in that new franchise. Right? Not gonna lie, this is where the movies actually start to get a bit better. I actually enjoyed this movie. I just like how simple and enjoyable it was. They didn't try to complicate things, it was just straightforward. I will say this movie was word for word, bar for bar, a copy of the first Ant-Man movie, but I can't blame them, they really needed this. This movie mainly focuses on family, which I think is a cliche that has been overused a lot in superhero movies. And I'm not gonna lie, the two villains were pretty bad and the plot was a bit too simple if you catch my drift. And another thing, I will say I'm not a big fan of this version of Blue Beetle. One thing that hyped me up for this movie is that I grew up watching Young Justice and the Blue Beetle there was amazing. Here he is just okay. Another thing, they didn't make the Scarab evil in this movie. Like in most depictions, the Scarab says evil things and that gives a great dynamic with Jaime, but here it was just non-existent. Another thing, this movie was very scared to try anything new, which I thought was very cowardly, but I can't blame them. They didn't have much to work with. At number 3, we have The Flash. I think I'm in the minority that actually enjoyed this movie. I will say this, the only thing that killed this movie is the bad CGI and the whole Ezra Miller controversy, which I didn't care much about. I always say separate the art from the artist, but that's a different story for many people. For the mere fact that we not only got 1, not 2, but 3 Batman in this movie was an instant W. Like, they should have just called this movie Batman No Way Home. You get it, because of the 3 Batman and the 3 Spider... Okay, I'll shut up.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Like with the whole CGI problem, there are 3 specific moments that actually stood out. The baby scene, the Flash running scene, and the multiverse traveling scene, where we got to see a poorly rendered CGI Nicolas Cage Superman. And the third part is, it wasn't just Nicolas Cage, almost everyone here was just bad CGI. Like, for why they didn't use actual clips from the movies is just beyond me. Like, the CGI was so bad, the director literally lied and said the CGI was bad on purpose because that's how the Flash sees the world. Like, what? But let's get to the good stuff. I loved Ezra Miller as the Flash even more than Grant Gustin. Hate him or not, you can't deny the fact that his acting was actually phenomenal here. And he was able to play the two berries so well. And another thing, I actually really wish that Supergirl was actually a real character. The thing is, they didn't give her character time to actually become a character, thus she just felt like a background character at most. Now the big one. Michael Keaton as Batman has always been a badass, and to watch him do his thing has always been cool. From fighting Russian soldiers to fighting Kryptonians, my man is a badass. Even Ben Affleck's Batman was pretty phenomenal in the few minutes we saw him in. The whole opening chase sequence was just amazing. I really wish they'd remove that cringe-inducing Wonder Woman bridge scene, it was just not needed. And another thing, I really wish they had made Reverse Flash the main villain of this movie and they had strictly followed the Flashpoint storyline, but regardless, I still liked what we got. And I will say this, I would really love to see Ezra Miller as the Flash down the line. At number 2 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, I know most people have this as their number 1, but as Miles said, nah, I'ma do my own thing. 5 years later, the sequel proved to us that this franchise can get better. The animation in this movie was gorgeous. I just hope that Sony isn't giving their animators the whole MAPPA treatment. If you know, you know. Miles was okay in this movie, I never liked him that much, but Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara was phenomenal in this movie. Spider-Man 2099 was on a different spectrum and that theme song of his, it is unmatched. I know the running theme in this movie is that Miguel is actually the bad guy, but from a non-biased perspective, he's actually the good guy because he's the one who's actually trying to save the multiverse. There's a scene in the movie where Miguel tries to bite the vulture with his vampire teeth. That scene was actually pretty sick. I really thought he was going to eat him. A lot of things were handled well in this movie. The Spot was actually a great villain and the connection between Miles and Gwen was pretty good. The emotional baggage Miguel has for losing his daughter was also done well, but I still wish they should have said that was his actual daughter and not a daughter from a different universe, so it would have more weight to it, but regardless, it was done well. But we can't forget about Daniel Kaluuya as Hobie Brown, aka Spider-Punk. I like how they use newspaper and magazine clippings to actually animate it, and I'm pretty sure it took the animators a while to actually do it. The cliffhanger at the end of the movie was pretty interesting. Now we just have to wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse to get the full story, but regardless, I'm still on Miguel's side. He literally has Insomniac Spider-Man and Scarlet Spider on his side. This man even has Spectacular Spider-Man with him. Wait, was Spectacular Spider-Man with Gwen or Miguel? But regardless, he should still be with Miguel. I'm rooting for him. But other than that, this movie was actually phenomenal. And at number 1, you guessed it, it is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Where to start with this movie? First of all, it was the only good movie that came out of Marvel in 2023, all thanks to James Gunn. This movie was amazing, and for the mere fact that this is the last time we'll ever see the Guardians together hits hard. This movie is simple but yet effective, and some of the scenes here literally brought me to tears. And the High Evolutionary was one of the best MCU villains we have gotten in a while, and Chukwu Iwaji was phenomenal in this role. Many do say that Adam Warlock was wasted in this movie, and I do agree to some degree, but regardless, he was still one of my favorite characters in this movie. And to this day still has one of, if not the best MCU character introductions ever. Him flying across space with Crazy on You by Heat playing in the background is unmatched. The only critique I have about this movie is that the death baiting got really old really fast. There are literally moments where you thought a character would die and they just duped you and they wouldn't die. And I still think that Peter Quill should have actually died in this scene to add some depth to it, but we wouldn't have gotten this iconic shot referencing the creation of Adam painting. I really liked how they showed that Gamora had found a new home with the Ravengers, and I really liked how much they flushed out Nebula as a character. This movie was really phenomenal, and it just sucks to know that this is the last time we'll ever see the Guardians together. But this was peak Marvel. So we can all agree that 2023 was a rough year for superhero movies. There are more downs than ups, but we also got hidden gems like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and I'm gonna say it, The Flash. At least in 2024 we won't have too many superhero movies. Marvel is only dropping Deadpool 3 and the Thunderbolts. DC has no projects apart from Joker 2, and Sony's gonna be dropping Madam Web, Kraven the Hunter, and an untitled Venom 3 movie, which I'm actually excited for. You know, it's still funny to see that Sony is out here making Spider-Man movies with no Spider-Man. I don't even want to know what's next. But that is it with today's video, and I haven't been shown my posting schedule, but I did decide. So I have been planning on posting every Wednesday, but we'll just see what works out. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, drop a subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell to stay posted, and I am out.